Chapter 16, Adaptive Immunity, Part 1 of 9. So we've talked about innate immunity, and now we're going to talk about adaptive immunity. And that is the ability of our body to recognize and defend against specific invaders and the things that they make. So we have 5 pieces or attributes of adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity has a very high specificity. The elements of adaptive immunity are very specifically targeted against very specific pathogens. It is inducible. It gets induced by exposure. It is associated with clonality. In other words, we're going to see that the cells involved in this kind of immunity, when they get stimulated, they produce clones of the same cell. So they are all clones, the cells that respond to this in this way. Another really important thing of adaptive immunity is that you do not want your immune system to respond to things that are part of your normal body. So we want our adaptive immunity to be unresponsive to self. If that's a part of normal stuff that your body makes, you don't want to have an immune response against it. And the other important thing about adaptive immunity is memory. In this process, our bodies develop this ability to very specifically target very particular pathogens and remember them and be able to defend from them if they come back in a few months or a few years or a few decades. Adaptive immunity is closely associated with the lymphocytes. So we talked about our 5 types of leukocytes. Those are all the white blood cells. One of those types are lymphocytes. There are 2 types of lymphocytes. They don't look different from each other, so when we look at them on a scope, we can't see a difference, but they behave in very different ways. Some of them are what's called B lymphocytes. These are B cells. They mature inside the bone marrow, and that's why they got the B for the bone marrow. The T lymphocytes mature in the thymus in children and elsewhere in adults, but that's where they got their T cells. So there's 2 types of adaptive immune responses. One type of response is called cell-mediated immune responses, and the other is called antibody immune responses. The cell-mediated immune responses are mediated by T lymphocytes, and the antibody, and it's also called humoral immune responses, are stimulated or are associated with the B lymphocytes. And here is a picture of a blood smear with a happy little lymphocyte. These guys are about 20% or so of all of the white blood cells normally. They have a very large nucleus. They are agranulocytes. They have a very thin nucleus around the outer edge, and they are factories for immune response. In addition to the lymphocytes, we also have other tissues and organs of the lymphatic system that are involved in adaptive immunity. So we have lymphatic vessels, lymphatic cells, lymphatic tissues and organs throughout the body. And these function to screen the tissues and the fluids of the body for foreign antigens, and then the lymphocytes can get activated and initiate a response. In the next section, we're going to talk about some of the elements of adaptive immunity.